What up, gamers? We've got some more modern action for you. Amulet Titan versus Eldrazi Ramp in a weird one. This one's a weird video today. You'll see once we get into it. But we've got a bunch of Amulet Titan in the queue. We've got a bunch of Murktide in the queue. We also, which I believe will be Monday's video. It's a little spoiler, keep your eyes peeled. We're going to be showing off some Death Shadow because it's been a while since we've seen some Death Shadow on the channel. So I'm really excited to be able to show off some of that because that was one of my favorite decks back in the day. I'm really excited to see how that match goes. But let's focus on what we've got today, which is Amulet Titan versus Eldrazi Ramp. So, of course, we've seen both decks featured on the channel before. If you're new to Modern or, just want to learn a little bit more about these matchups, or you've played these decks and you want to kind of see how other players are piloting them, this is a good one to just kind of see, all right, you know what? We've got the game plan of assemble as many Amulet Titans on the battlefield as possible, right? Or so assemble as many Amulets of Vigors on the battlefield as possible so that you can be able to just generate an insane amount of mana and basically pop off in one single turn. I played against an Amulet player at the shop last week. It was not on camera, but it was, just playing against them, and they went hellbent on turn 2 and dumped their entire hand. And I was just like, I have a tap land. I went second here, and here's my tap land, and on your turn 2 you have nothing left in your hand. Right, they dumped a bunch of stuff, played one ring, protected. I guess they had one card left, right? But still, because they would have drawn off the one ring, but still, it's just like, yep, I guess I just die this game. All right, so we get to see some battling. The Boseiju, of course, going to pop the non-basic there, because you cannot destroy basic. Otherwise, you'd be popping this lovely forest that is looking really, really full there with all of our growths popping up on there, which is one of the things about the deck is it's like big mana decks. Your focus is on gathering up and producing some of your big Eldrazi's. There's, of course, different versions of the Eldrazi deck that's running around, like Eldrazi-tron, if you want it to be more toolboxy. But we've also got our Eldrazi Ramp, which is becoming more and more popular on how it's setting things up. It gives you access to things like the World Breaker. Got different versions of Emrakul in there, but you get to run things, Ancient Stirrings, the Malevolent Rumble, right? The different talismans. I've even been seeing some lists running the Talisman of Curiosity just so they can run Consigned to Memory in the sideboard, which is, if that's not any indication of how rampant and powerful the One Ring is, like every top deck is running it, all right? Even like Dimir Murktide lists are running it. All right, let's be honest. Some, not all of them, because a lot of them are also running the Harbingers of the Seas and stuff, but like Energy, like Boros Energy, which is sitting at, a nice solid 20-some% of the meta is rocking it. Everybody else is, I'd say, healthier 5 to 7% of our top decks. But yeah, so here's our kind of ramp out, big setup here with the, let's get some mana rocks. Let's get some enchantments. Let's kind of set ourselves up here. Utopian Sprawl, so that forest, of course, taps for 4 mana. And we're going to see a big ramp out here with our Kozilek's Command. We'll make a bunch of course, Eldrazi spawn. And then we are set up here to be able to scry and draw a card. Because it's like, what do we, exiling card? No, don't really care about it. I mean, I guess, I don't know. It's like saving it for removal against whatever the big creature is possible, but you need to have 8 mana to do that. All right, so what are we at here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's like, do you have 2 turns to try to wait for that to go? No, probably not. Looks like there was a sowing micro spawn there. Maybe that is the play too. Of like, let's keep one of those on top. I'll tutor for a land, pop one of your lands. But I don't know. There's already an Amulet of Vigor over there. It's like slightly off screen. You can look at it right at the top by the Amulet Titan little thing and the life total there. But hey, why don't we just go for another all 4 Utopian Sprawl? That's like that indication of like, hey, your deck is mad at you. I always say that when something like that happens where cards just get super clumped. But that's what I was talking about in the intro there of like, this is a weird game. where a player is sitting here with all the Utopian Sprawls out, and we're going to be getting the hard cast of the Emrakul, the Promised End. Most lists are running this as their kind of top end. Some are doing some variations of it. We do see, Emrakul, the Promised End, and Emrakul, the World Anew over here for our ramp player. There's different variations. Play the ones you want. And then we get to, of course, take control of the player here. So you look at this and you go, okay, we can at least eat this. I don't know. It's like it's not good in the sense of if you're on the amulet side, you're like, okay, I need a way to utilize all this mana. All right, we've got the Amulet of Vigor. We've got an Urza Saga. We've got some bounce lands, so we can kind of set ourselves up and hope that we can draw into something next turn. Nothing yet. So now we're facing. Now there's the other Emrakul in hand. We drew into the World Anew. So here's the big swing. 13 damage. So not going to imprint here because we know it's we got another land in hand and the Emrakul. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana available to us. Yeah. I mean, we're set up that we win next turn. So the Amulet player now has to make the decision. And you see that finger counting, the tapping on the table there. That is the indication of a combo player about to kill you. I have done that many a times when I've been playing Infect and just sitting here mathing it out in my brain and just tapping through and be like, yep, okay, this does this, gives you that much. All right, cool. If they respond here, I can do that. And this is the Titan player going, okay, let's math it out. If I use this much mana to do this, and the fact that they're going to be getting our Cultivator here is kind of an indication of they're not going the traditional let's go for the Amulet kill with Primeval Titan. All right, now there's a couple versions of Amulet Titan running around too, which is very cool, doing the Aftermath Analyst and looping your lands and being able to just make a bunch off of Lotus Field, the Amulet Lotus combo style that you can be able to do. You can do scape ships and stuff like that, where there's also just the Nadu loops with your lands that you can be able to do with Besejus and Otawaros and stuff like that. There's some crazy stuff that Amulet players, it's so diverse right now, and there's 3 or 4 different builds that players are going for. But okay, so here's the Cultivator Colossus. We're using the trigger right now. When it enters, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. If you do, you draw a card. So look at that flood. And because we have Amulet, this is going to finish resolving, and then everything untaps, right? We're going to finish this and then it, not doing it individually. So we get to flood and get a bunch of mana, and then we're going to be, of course, having our bounce lands take effect, so we get to return stuff. So we're going to float. Yeah, it goes through it, I don't know, 8 mana or something crazy like that. And we have our Tolarian ability here to be able to kind of tutor things up. So this is going to be one of those, we're going to be able to look and dig and find a route to be able to tutor up another threat, like another Primeval Titan using Summoner's Pact, because of access to our Tolaria West here. But hey, guess what? In all those draw effects we got 2 more Amulets of Vigor. So let's do this. We've got our Dryad, so we get additional land drops here. So you get 1 additional land drop, and your lands are now every land. So now we're going to be setting up and going for the route of Summoner's Pact, use all that floating mana that we had, get the Primeval Titan, and be able to find, most likely here, the last couple stuff. We can be able to get some haste. We can also be able to get access to doing the land destruction style of things of, hey, we're going to just start bolting your face here. But we'll see if that is going to be the route, or if we're just going to go for the haste effect and just go big here. So prime time coming out here, going to be, of course, tutoring up 2 lands, put them onto the battlefield, tap, shuffle your library. So this will be the indication of which lands and which route this player is going to be going for here. Mirror pool, so we can make a copy of our prime time and go again. And yeah, there's the Valakut. So we are going to be going for the land style of play. And yeah, how like crazy is that to go, well, I've got an Emrakul out. I've been able to swing once, and I could not get a second attack in with it because you just popped off. When I looked at your hand, you had no way to win, right? You had an amulet, and that was it, and you top decked into it. Yeah, okay, so this is the nice little, we got a clip and saw, hey, here's the sideboard stuff that we're bringing in here, which is not often we get to see players do that, but when I was going through editing and putting up the card images, I go, oh, that's cool. We got to see at least a little glimpse of what players were going for. Used to be something we'd see a lot more back when we were doing the live streaming of it, and we got to be able to see, oh, you know, we're going to the sideboard stuff, here's possible things, but mulligan into 6, and we have an Eldrazi to start things out with our Devourer of Destiny, revealing it. We got to do this little cheeky peek at the top 4, set something on top here, but looks like we weren't too happy with those choices here. Yeah, Verdant Catacomb. It looks like the debate, but we're not happy with what's there, so we're going to just shuffle it away. Micro spawn is, I don't know. I think it's okay because you can start blowing up some of their lands, but the real thing is Amulet. Now, this is that question, like, where do you attack the deck, right? Because it's got so many lines that it can navigate through and win through. Like, there's no real, like, oh, this is the best targets to fight this deck, all right? Because it goes, oh, I can win through just my lands and Valakut triggers. I can win through killing you with just a prime time and moving to combat and doing things that way, right? So it's really interesting which line you try to target. They could just pivot off of it and go somewhere else. All right, we see some ramp. Nice little setup here with a nice little turn 2. Tuck away that Devourer. We're going to be able to get a threat off of our Malevolent Rebel and throw those, of course, into the graveyard here. Make ourselves a nice little Eldrazi spawn. Malevolent Rebels, I mentioned it before, but it's one that's like, yeah, that's a really cool card. A lot of players are utilizing it, and I can see why, right? Getting the permanent, getting some ramp, it speeds you up, gets you information. Oh no, we're already seeing. I was like, we already see the math. You saw the tapping. All right, so where are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana right now. Couple lands. Yeah, sending a message. We like that. Just like the Grazer in the game 1, right? It's an 0-3. This is an 0-1 spawn, so we're just players like joking around, sending messages. Searching. Let's go find another amulet here. There are other things like sideboard players like to bring in as well, but not going to be the case this time. Yeah, so that's like, what do you use to fight them? Like, it is the ramp player, it's harder, right? Because you don't have the same, like, ability to fight them like you would someone else. I mean, Stonebrain's really good. If we can draw into that, that helps us. But otherwise, nothing. Like, I think Force of Vigor is solid for the sideboard, you know, because of the fact that Dryad of Elysium is an enchantment. We also have, you know, the Amulet is an artifact, and Urza Saga is an enchantment. Like, I like the idea of having some copies or some number of Force of Vigor in your board. Let's make a bunch of mana and cast the One Ring. Well, makes sense. All right, big turn here. Basically, we have to try to set ourselves up and hope we don't die, right? Because, like, the blanket effect is basically the way of saying, hey, next turn could be the big explosion that normally comes, like we saw in game 1, right? There's that just big explosion, and that's usually what happens with an Amulet player, right? Is they do a bunch of stuff in one turn. Dampening Sphere is probably a way to go about it too, reducing the amount of mana. But the problem is an Eldrazi Ramp deck is not going to be running that because it would also hurt them.
So I don't actually... I have a handful of lands.
Do we have an Eldrazi or a Kozilek's command here? That would be useful because you could be able to try to exile whatever thing tries to kill you. Because we've got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can get a 6-drop with it. That would be our only real out here. Grazer. Let's drop a land. And we get a Transmute Teleria West off of this. Finding Summoner's Pact here. Again, that's the whole purpose of that land inside the deck. And going the Cultivator Colossus route again. It says, hey, in a deck that is just full of lands, right? And we think about the amount of lands the deck runs. This is the one of the best lines to learn if you're playing the deck. The deck runs like 30, 32 lands. Somewhere in that number. So if you can be able to learn the lines of just get Cultivator Colossus, you can basically line yourself up in such a huge advantage or a position to win from that it's the best way to start learning how to play the deck, I feel like. Yes, there are the lines with prime time, and that might be easier to set up, but it's like, yeah, look at this. We're just going to continue to go. That's going to be boom, 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 boom. He says, I also will have access to 2 Valakuts because I have a Vesuva, so I still will have access to additional drops that I can be able to do. So it's going to be tough to fight through. But yeah, so that's the, I told you it was going to be a weird one. A quick weird one in that sense of like, if you're wanting to learn an Amulet deck, this is at least a line to study up of. And if you're playing against an Amulet deck, this is a line that you should be aware of within some list. That's the dangerous part of, we don't know because not every list is running the Cultivator list. Some lists are going for like the Scapeshift versions now and doing like Spelunkings and doing the, you know, the loops with Lotus Field. Like, you just have to kind of identify which version it is, and you know, game 2 you have a better idea there. But you know, quick easy games for us to get in there. But like I said, we've got a couple more cool games coming up in the future. We got some Death Shadow coming out on Monday, a lot more Amulet, a lot more Dimir coming out for Murktide. So make sure you guys are hitting the follow, subscribe, share the video if you like it. But that's going to do it for us here. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching, everyone, and I'll see you all next game.